Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer card game review. Today's game up on the tabletop is called War of Supremacy by Lost Treasure Games. It is for 2 to 5 players, takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play, and it's for ages 13 and up approximately. In the game, you're going to be playing with a bunch of different factions, and you're trying to control territories. By doing so, you're going to need to be playing cards based on their combat value and their combat form. Now, the combat form is going to be represented on their card as well as a numeration of value. So for each card, it'll tell you, like over here it says 0, 0, and 3, and that means that the sword combat form he has 3 on. And you're going to be trying to play based on whatever that combat form is for vying for territories. If you can acquire a territory by keeping all your dudes on a single location the entire round, you're going to score that territory, and after you get a certain amount of territories, you can win the game. The game's going to come with a bunch of locations, factions, creatures, and spells can be played on your turn and off of your turn depending on the type of spell to either destroy your opponent's creatures, increase your points on your creatures, and a bunch of other things. You're going to be having a lot of variation in the game where you'll be choosing between which factions you want to use and spells and all that kind of stuff, as well as a bunch of variables which could be like variations based on do you want to play with legendary creatures in your hand to start the game or just draw them from the decks. The game has a lot of things to offer and is a very simple stylistic game. Let me show you the game along with the components. Alright guys, so here is War Supremacy and all of the components. I'm going to go ahead and go over them all with you, and as you can see there are 5 different colors: green, orange, black, yellow, and blue, and they separate into 3 different types of cards. You got the territory cards, which all represent territories you're trying to control, spell cards, which you'll be using throughout your turn and other people's turns to do certain things, and creature cards. Creature cards are going to have unique abilities as well as the type and a color and a faction, as well as the 3 different combat forms. You got like the attack and like the psychological, and then you got like the sword, the 3 different types, as well as the neutral ones here, which are just going to be spells and creatures with no territory locations. Those are just here. Finally, you're going to be getting a combat form deck. You'll be taking this deck here and shuffling it and putting one up face up to determine what combat form is for that specific type of territory, and it can change throughout the turns, as well as selecting which decks you'd like to play with. You can play with all of them, or 3 of them, or 2 of them, or whatever, however you want to combine it. And finally, you're going to have some dice along with the different pluses and minuses that will be giving to your creatures as you play certain spells and territories and creatures on the locations. Okay, so the game setup's pretty easy. You're going to choose 4 of the factions, as well as putting the white neutral cards in, shuffle them up, remove any of the cards you don't want to add to the game, which is nice. So in this example, I'm choosing to not play with blue. However, you can choose whatever you want. There's 2 separate decks in the game. You've got creatures, and then you've got the spells. Not only that, but you're also going to have a separate smaller deck, which is for locations. You'll flip one of those over, and that'll be the location you're vying for until somebody's captured it, and you're going to flip a new one over. As well as another separate small deck, which is going to be the combat form cards you're going to be flipping over every time a new location pops out or whenever somebody plays a card to change it. Set the tokens aside somewhere, give everybody 5 creatures and 3 spells to start out with, and then you're ready to begin the game. Let me show you how turns work. So here we are now with every single player having 5 creatures and 3 spells. There's 3 separate players in the game, and you're going to choose somebody to go first, and I'll just go ahead and select this guy. You've got your creature deck, your spell deck, your dice set aside, tokens, as well as your location, 1 flipped over, and your combat form cards with 1 flipped over. This represents the type of combat you're going to be needing to vie for this territory. So creatures with the highest amount of red and or purple are going to be the most important, and it's going to be based off the highest of the 2 stats available, and sometimes all 3 could be available. So when we look at somebody's hand, we're going to go ahead and check it out. So we've got this black card here, we've got an orange, another black one, yellow, and a green. These are the creature cards. I'll talk about the spells in a second. And as you see, there's a different variations of numbers based on the different types of combat forms here. So the highest number here is a 2. However, when you're playing this card on this territory, 1 is going to be most represented because it is the one that you need in order to acquire this territory. Now you can play cards in an interesting way, these creature cards on the territories, because it's kind of this king of the hill fashion. If you play this green card here, that's going to count towards 6. But you can only play cards, more than 1 card, as long as the color matches, or as long as it is a wild, or as long as the different types of creature type matches, but only one of, either the color or the creature type. So because I have no other green cards in my hand, I'm going to try and go for creature types here. I have an archer / caster, and I'm going to look through here, and as you see, there's no other archer / caster, so if I played this one, which is worth 6 points for this color, that would be pretty good. However, if I didn't want to, I could simply choose these 3. These 3 right here, as you can see, they all share the same type, which is War Machine, War Machine, War Machine, so those are all okay to play, even though this is orange. However, these 2
said War Machine and this one said something like the Fae, this would not be included. You couldn't add this. You can also go ahead and look at the different cards. They all have unique abilities top with their numbers. And you're going to fight for the highest number. So it would be a 2. And then this is the highest number for this combat form, so another 2, which is 4, and then this 1 over here, which is going to be 5. So 5 would be the number for somebody else to beat. It would say, if played with another guard card, faction creature, make an opponent discard 2 cards from their hand. So as you can see, this is a guard card, and it shows you up here the faction. So another player would have to discard a card from discard 2 cards from their hand of your choosing, and it says in combat with another guard faction, creatures gain +5. So whenever another 2 guard faction creatures this gains +5, making this an 8. However, it doesn't have another 2, there's just 1, so it wouldn't gain that. Plus, it wouldn't matter because that's for the swords, and sword is not available right now. However, if this got flipped at some point, it might. This says destroy all defending beast type creatures. So when you play this, if somebody else was defending, which no one was at the beginning of the turn, you would destroy all their beast type monsters when playing this. So do you want to go with these 3 cards for 5, or would you rather just go with this 1 card for 6? Maybe that's a better bet, and I also get to keep these cards for later use, for better times when I can use them. This is summon a beast and a Fey type creature from your hand into attack. So I can simply play this one right here, because this is a Fey. That's really nice, which gives me a +4 and a +6, making this a 10. If you ever get 20, 20 or more, you're instantly going to win this location here, which is great because you need them to win the game. And this says send a common or a rare rated defending creature back to their owner's hand, and you can see over here these are the amounts of rarity. Obviously this one being the most important. It's a legendary, very powerful, and this one is a rare, and then they have common, which is the white over here. So there's no defending creatures, so that also wouldn't matter either. So we gotta go ahead and set these here just like that, and we could also go ahead and look at this little territory here. All territories have unique abilities. All creatures in combat with this territory have +1 wild attack, which means because this is the highest, it's the one that's counted for, and also +1 makes it a 7. This one make it a 3, but the 4 is still better, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it would be 11 right here. Pretty good here, huh? So we're going to set this right here. That's for 11. And this player would not want to play any more of his creatures. He gets to keep those face down. He could choose to play any of these spells if he wanted to. And they do different things. Pick 3 creature cards from the deck. Choose 1 creature card. And, what does it say? Summon it onto the combat with your other creatures and discard the rest. So maybe I'd want to do that too. I could play this card here. Or maybe I want to save it for later. This one here says, if a player is about to claim their final territory and win the game, you can make them lose a territory. So that's very, very powerful, but it only works on their last one. And this says if a spell card goes to the graveyard, take it and place it in your hand instead. So that's a good card to save if you want to save one of your cards. The end of your turn, you're going to be able to draw 2 cards, and you can choose either 2 from this deck, 2 from this, or 1 from each. So maybe this player will actually just go ahead and take 2 creature cards, because that's what he spent, and save it. And as you can see, here's 2 new ones. So we got another legendary, and he got another rare card. These are really cool. Put it here. Now the next player is going to get to go, and if these 2 players go through the turn and his creatures are still remaining, he's going to get this territory. So they're going to try and stomp him by getting over 11 or by removing creatures in his side of on the defending side to try and put their new creatures down. So they've got some spells here. Look at an opponent's hand and discard a card. Change to magic combat form. Oh, that's really cool. Right now that'd be a 9 for him though, so it's still strong. But if these guys, if it's a change to this combat form instead, that would be 0, making these guys' defense almost nothing. And this says if you attack with a Sylvan creature, pick up and discard cards until you get a matching type creature and summon it as well. That's pretty cool. Cool little spell there. Let's go ahead and look at his hand to see if we can beat him out. So as you can see here, we've got all these creatures here. Let's move these aside for a second. And there there's a bunch of them, right? You got 3 of these guys here, which are the yellow. And then you got 2 of these white ones, which are neutral, which can be played with them if you want. And let's see, 3 and 6, plus this bonus for each of them, making it 7 and 8. This is all opponents discard a random card from their hand. It says pick up a card from the deck and place it into your hand for each opponent with 7 or more cards in their hand, so that's pretty good. But unfortunately, well, I guess actually both of them would do that, so that'd be pretty powerful. So maybe he could play, let's see if we can do this. This one, and then this one as well. So that would go 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There's still 11 there, so is he going to be able to do something? Let's see. He could change this here. I think that's what he's going to do. Yes, I think he'll do that. So he's going to play this card here. It's a spell card, and it'll change the combat form to the purple one here. So we would just go ahead and maybe we just show this, or I would just go ahead and put a new one out there just to show you. Shuffle this back up. Okay, so now we look at it again. It's just this one now, so the red ones are ignored, making this a 5 and a 4, which is 9, and this is 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Beating this out. So 10 would beat the 9 out now. So that's pretty cool how the combat forms work, right? And you can save the rest of these 2 cards for a later use. This player could obviously try and do something as well as this player if they wanted to. They can't play creatures though, however, because it's not their turn, but they could potentially play a spell. This one says if it goes to the graveyard, that's not going to help him at all. This is not going to help him either. And this says pick up 3 creatures to the deck, choose 1 creature, and summon it into the combat with your other creatures. So he's going to try and so he can do this. It says play it on any turn. It tells you right here what you can do. So he's going to play this. He's going to draw 3 creatures up from the deck, choose 1 creature card, and summon it. So let's see here. Ooh, this one right here. Spells can't be played on him while he's in combat. So he would instantly play this to the field. So now he gets an additional card. These guys are discarded now. And this one here, now he's got 14 total, which is going to beat this guy out. So after he plays his creatures, it's not going to work. He has successfully defended his area, and these guys would burn. Now, if he wanted to play something else, he could. Otherwise, he's going to just go ahead and draw cards back up, because unfortunately that didn't work out for him. Also, any spells he would have, anything he would have had to use. Let's see if there's anything here. Opponent, everybody discards a card, so everybody would have to discard a card as well. That'd be part of it. Who knows, whatever he wanted to discard. Ooh, no, that's too good. No, that's okay. All right, and then the next player would go ahead and take their turn. And you would keep going like that. If this player was able to beat this guy out, that'd be great. If he couldn't beat it out, he would end up drawing his 2 cards. And also, what's another interesting thing is if you don't play any cards on your hand, you can simply draw another card, any card you want, so up to 3 cards. And the next player would begin, and this player actually happens to have his 3 creatures here, which is great. So he is going to successfully defend this location. These guys go. This territory becomes his, and a new territory comes out along with a new combat form. Now, he's not able to play anything on this one. It's going to pass to the next player, allowing him to start it off, so he doesn't get to start it off again. And as you see, this one says attacking creatures must outsource the defense by at least 2. Oh, outscore the defense by 2. So if you're trying to attack this one, you have to have +2 to their number. So if there was a 10 here of total defense, you'd have to put down at least 12 in order to beat that. And it would continue going on in that way. Whenever certain cards be played, there's a bunch of different spell cards in here, which will change the variation of, I'll show you one of these guys here. Maybe you got +3 to this color. You would add that, and that would give him +8. There's the same with red and with white. And finally, you have damage. Whenever something gets damaged, they would lose -1 on all their current points, and if ever their highest one goes to 0, that creature dies or gets discarded, as well as any pluses. This is going to give them bonuses to all their stats as well. The game is going to continue being played until somebody collects a certain amount of territories, which is 3, and at which point, after they're collecting 3 territories, they're going to win. However, don't forget about certain cards like preventing that from happening. And it's just going to keep going back and forth, back and forth. Players are going to be trying to play creatures on these territories, trying to secure them for an entire turn, losing them, gaining them, until somebody has acquired those 3 territories to win the game War of Supremacy.
Okay, so now for a couple caveats in the game, as well as a secondary aspect of winning or losing. If one of the decks depletes, then the person who had the most wins. However, if in resulting a tie where everybody had a single territory, the person who acquired the first territory is the winner. Now, if everybody had 2 territories, then the person who got 2 territories first would be the winner. Also to note, don't forget that you can choose cards to take out, put in as you'd like, and you can select which. If you don't play a deck, you don't have to play a specific deck like this blue one here we selected to pull it out. Also, there's a couple other cards in the game, like this spell. This spell specifically has this little exclamation mark on it, and that means that you have to play this card immediately. Everything else stops and this happens. All players have to discard 1 legendary creature card from their hand. Or, don't forget, this is also a legendary creature. So the legendary creatures are very, very powerful, and you can gain them, and you can play a specific variant of the game where you can have 1 legendary creature in the hand for every single player. Everybody's going to get one. That's another way to play the game. Let me go and talk about a couple extra cards in the game so you guys can get a good idea of all the different spells and stuff like that. There's a huge amount of variation in different types of cards. This spell says pick up and discard cards until you get a legendary creature, maximum of 10 cards, and place it in your hand. So draw up to 10 cards, find a legendary creature, put in your hand. Cleanse, creatures can't use any of their abilities, remove all status conditions and any changes to their base attack. Empowered, choose a player, they must give you their highest rated creature card. Backfire, send an attacking creature back to its owner's hand. It can't be played again this turn. So that 1+6 they played, you return it, and now they can't play it again, securing your victory for the next turn to get your territory. Switch, this lets you change combat forms and hope you get lucky. This one here is Sylvian Summon. Pick up 3 cards. If you get a Sylvian creature, you can put it down and discard the rest. Counter spells, you know what this is. And Double Dimension, this is another play instantly card. All players roll a die, 1 and 2 discard 2 cards, 3 and 4 discard 1, and 5 or 6 they pick up a random card from the deck, or pick up a card from the deck, either deck they want, and put in their hand. Whenever you draw cards, you can choose either deck to play. And there's tons more spells, and every different faction has their own unique spells, along with those basic common white ones. There's a lot of creatures as well. You got the Heavy Ballista. This is just simply a 1/1/1 all the way across, and it's a war machine. It's a basic one. This is a Wall Rover. Pick up the top 3 cards from the graveyard, choose one and place it in your hand, discard the rest, so that can gain you additional cards throughout the game. A Time Bearer gains plus purple and plus white for every card that you pick up from the deck while in combat. So that could be useful as well, specifically with combinations of cards. This is a Gorilla, just has 4 red. Pretty simple. Another Gorilla. Gnome Destroyer. If you play 2 spells while attacking, you win the combat. So just simply playing this card down and playing 2 spells, you win the combat, remove their other creatures from the game. That's pretty good. This is a Hobbenrud, which is similar to the other name for this guy. And it says the player with the most amount of cards in their hand must give you 2 random cards from their hand. It's a 7/1/5. Very powerful. These legendary creatures are not to be messed with, and there is at least one of them in each of the different types of faction cards. And as you can see, there's a ton of different cards in the deck, as well as a lot of different territories. You saw a couple of them, how they work. All creatures in combat on this territory have +1 blade. All players pick up 2 spell cards from the deck at the start of each conquest, or the start of the conquest. And this says at the start of each player's turn, if that player has less than 5 cards in their hand, they may pick up cards from the deck till they have 5 cards in their hand. So that's very useful if you start dumping cards out. It's okay because you can draw more cards with that territory. And finally, last but not least, obviously the different combat forms. It's simple. It's either going to be 1 or 2 or all 3, and you're just going to be randomly putting them down. And sometimes you're going to be forced to put one down that it specifically says on a spell card. But that's the basic idea of the game War of Supremacy. Collect those 3 territories, secure your location until it's your turn again, and continue in stopping other players to do the same. Alright, that's the game. Let me tell you what I think about it. Okay, so what do I think about War of Supremacy? Well, the first thing I gotta say is you can only play 1 legendary creature per combat because they're so powerful, so that's pretty cool, and I like that aspect. But just because I didn't mention it, I think it should be mentioned. Also, there is a plethora of different factions to choose from to put into the deck. I like how customizable the game is and how you can choose to get rid of cards you don't like and what you do like. The first thing I gotta say is, I guess we'll start off with a negative here, I suppose. I'm not a big fan of the blue deck. It has a lot of cards that make you lose turns, and I don't like that kind of aspect, skipping another player's turn. Some of the creatures are pretty cool, but it wasn't enough to where there was enough different those kind of things in this deck where I wasn't too big of a fan of it. Especially in a larger player game, losing your turn is a big thing, and it's not as fun, right? Although I don't mind the card that's the one that says that one, I guess the neutral one that says if you're about to win the game, you can lose one. However, let me also state that you can't play 2 you-knows at once. The first one will trigger removing that one, and then you only have 2, so somebody else can't play that on you, so that's okay as well. But you can still take your turn, which is really good. I like that. All the rest of the factions are cool. The green ones all have their own unique abilities, and it feels like you're searching and pulling. It has that Magic the Gathering aspect where your green is big power, but only for certain types of combat, as well as you're scrying and searching and pulling up that stuff. The black faction, they have a bunch of different fighting. They're very good at like soldiers and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got the 2 other ones, which are like gnomes and goblins and all that other good stuff. They all work really well. There's damaging effects work really well. It's a very fluid game. The artwork is spectacular. I like it a lot. I love the style of the game. I like the fact that you're playing cards down to control territories, and there is a little bit of politicking in the game, as well as a little bit of take that. There's a little bit of everything that kind of works through this game, and vying to hold those territories is
my favorite aspect of the game, as well as the customization, I should say. But it all works well, and all the tokens are very easy. You don't need a lot of them, and you can explain the game pretty quickly, and you can get started just going at it. Adding up the numbers can get a little tedious, I suppose, if things keep switching around, but it's not to the point where it's very difficult. The highest number count you're going to get is maybe 20 up, and when that happens, don't worry about it anymore. Score the territory, and that's a really great rule as well. Being able to pull from either deck is nice as well. It's definitely a game you're going to enjoy if you like strategy, if you like thinking, if you like the aspect of doing a little bit of take that, but more on trying to manipulate the game and the territories to your advantage, as well as giving certain players some allowances, but controlling the game yourself. And there are cards that let you do that. Obviously, holding those legendary cards is very beneficial, but there are cards that remove them. So there's a certain point where you're saying, when do I want to play this card? Is it worth holding on to for later? And if it is worth holding on to for later, I'm going to take that chance that it might not be in my hand next turn, and that could really mess me over. But those cards are not enough to give you the advantage throughout the game. It'll just move to the next territory, and with a 3-player game and a 4-player game, which is really the sweet spot, probably 3 or 4 for us. It played really well at 2, but I enjoyed it at pretty much every player base. As long as you're willing to do the setup. The setup is a little bit of time, but it's not too bad. Realistically, it's all fairly simple, fairly easy, flows very well, beautiful game, beautiful artwork. The contents are, well, just basically cards. I'm sure it's going to improve based on the Kickstarter, but definitely going to give this game my seal of approval. This is definitely a game that would stay in my collection, and I will most likely be back in this when the Kickstarter comes out because I'm very excited for it. And I really, really enjoyed the game. If you like this kind of tactical game, I think you're going to enjoy it as well. Go ahead and check out War of Supremacy, description below. Alright guys, thanks for watching on the Unfiltered Gamer board game, card game review. If you like this video, go and check out the rest of our videos on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and comment. All helps, and I do greatly appreciate it. As well as checking out War of Supremacy. It's definitely one of those games that kind of reminds me of like a thicker version of Kingdoms of Erden, like King of the Mountain style game. Works really well. It's a lot of fun. We've played it multiple times. We even took it to PAX South just to demo it out and see what other people thought, and they all really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to see what people think on the Kickstarter, and I hope they enjoy it just as much as I did. Also, you can go ahead and check out unfilteredgamer.com. We got tons of blog posts, giveaways, Kickstarter lists, and more. It all helps by just going and pushing a couple buttons, subscribing to the content. It is greatly appreciated. Also, you can go ahead and check out our friends at everythingboardgames.com, the giveaway geek, and my personal friend who does a lot of tutorials and other great stuff, Ferdinand the Cardboard Stacker. Check out his stuff as well. Alright guys, that's all I got for this one, and as always, you guys have a great one, and I look forward to seeing you next time.